lost in my doubts, tangled in stories I can't live without. But there's a fire, it's burning inside, calling me forward, I can't run and hide. It's not about perfection, it's about the climb, breaking through the limits, one step at a time. With every breath, I'm closer to the dream, a life that's bold, a heart that gleams. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. The mirror's reflection, it shows who I am, but it's just the beginning, not the end of the plan. Through trials and heartache, I've learned how to fight, to shape my tomorrow. I start with tonight. It's not about the shadows, it's about the flame, fueling the courage to rewrite the game. Every step forward, I leave fear behind. Greatness is waiting, it's yours and it's mine. Be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. Through the storms and the pain, I'm finding my way again. With purpose, with heart, I'll never fall apart. It's the journey, not just the end, a story that begins again. I'll build it, I'll create a life that resonates. Be great, be great, stand tall, rise above it all. Let your light shine through, answer the call. There's power in you, don't hesitate. This is your moment, go on, be great. This is your story, it's time to ignite a life of intention, a future so bright. The world is waiting, don't let it wait. Step into your greatness, it's time, be great.
Well, hello and good afternoon, everybody. Welcome in, welcome in. Hello, and welcome again to another Idea Academy podcast. This is episode, what? I don't know, 17, I think is where we're at. Welcome in. It's good to see those of you who are already in chat. And for those of you who may be watching the replay, welcome to the stream again this week. How's your week been? I hope it's been good. I hope you've been having a good week. I hope that, I hope everything's been going real well for you. You know, I'm in the middle of a challenging week myself. It's been one of those where I knew that I had a lot going into the week, but then I kind of got into it and had some meetings. Some of them didn't go very well. Some of them were even a little bit confrontational, a little bit in some areas where I didn't expect. And so you have one of those weeks where I don't know about you, but for me, I kind of go through life just expecting that people will get along. I know that that may be naive. I know that that may be a crazy thing to do, but I kind of walk through my day to day just kind of under the basic expectation that, you know, people are going to be cool to each other, more or less. And this week I have definitely encountered some times when that was not the case. And so, anyway, so I'm glad to be here with you guys. Let me get rid of that QR code because it doesn't work anymore. In fact, let me throw this up real fast. Hang on a second. There is something. Let's see. That didn't work at all. Oh, well, it did work. There we go. Wow, that's way too big. Let's make that a lot smaller. There we go. So I have moved my newsletter over to Substack. And that is that over there. That is where you can go to sign up. It's andrewburkham.substack.com. If you were already getting the old newsletter, you will now get the new one. And I moved over to this Substack platform just because it gives me a little bit more freedom to interact directly with people. It's almost kind of like almost like a social media platform where you can like posts and you can share posts and things like that. And it gives me a little bit more flexibility than just the straight email newsletter that I was doing before. So I do hope you'll join me over there. The other thing that I would like to call your attention to is down on this side over here. And that is, we are still continuing to support the fire relief effort down in Los Angeles. Mosaic, which is my community down in Los Angeles, they're still doing amazing things to support the people who are suffering in the wake of those fires. Even though the fires are contained, there's still a lot that goes into that. And having been a part of the long-term recovery group for the flooding that happened up here in Central California a couple of years ago, I mean, our work's not done. It's been 2 years. So by all means, again, I know I've got things that you can pay for. I know I've got things that you can buy. I know that I've got subscriptions here that you can do. But if you feel called to give above and beyond, or if you feel called to give instead of subscribing or instead of paying for an offering of mine, by all means, no hard feelings at all. Go ahead and give at that link. And the nice thing is, since that is a community of mine in Los Angeles, I can guarantee that 100% of the funds are going to go to the actual relief effort because I know these people. So that's a big deal. So much love to all of you who have already supported that, and much love to all of you who continue to support that. But that, okay, so that's all the housekeeping stuff. We've got that all out of the way now. So now let's talk about what we came to talk about today. Are you overcommitted? Do you have too much on your plate? Do you have way too much going on in your life and you are but then somebody says, "Hey, can you?" and you say yes for some reason. I was in like a Bible study meeting last night, and there was a guy in there, and it was the first meeting of this group, and it's a men's group, so we were all sitting down there together, and a lot of us are fathers, we got kids, and this poor guy, you could tell when he walked in that he was overcommitted. You could tell. Just, do you know that look that people have when you could tell that they've got one more thing to do than they have hours in the day? Maybe you have been that person. I know that I have certainly been that person. I even had this happen to me earlier today. But this guy, you could tell he was overcommitted, and the statement that he made was, "I will be here as often as I can." He's like, on Wednesday nights, I've got kids. They go to Little League. They go to here. They go to there. They go to sports. And I got to get all the people, all the places. And one of the guys said, "Oh, do you coach or do you shuttle them?" And he's like, "Yes, I coach." So he's coaching and he's shuttling and he's got 2 different businesses that he's running. The man is over committed. And, we laugh because we're guilty of the same thing, right? How overcommitted are you? In the same meeting, they asked me the question that everybody asks, well, what do you do for a living? And I said, how long do you have, right? Because, I told them, I have this business that I run over here, and I have this business that I've run over here, and I create this kind of content in this place, and then I'm also working with this organization over here, and here are all of the things that I do. I'm overcommitted. You're overcommitted. We are overcommitted. And today it's time to figure out how we let go of some things. Because here's what happens. Overcommitment, and you know this, I'm not telling you something you don't know. But when you're overcommitted, it gets you into a cycle of stress. You get into that cycle of stress. And then when you get into a cycle of stress, what happens next? You start to get into a cycle of burnout. And so you get burned out, you get run down, you fail to manage your energy correctly. And the next thing you know, you've got no energy left, right? And then what happens? Well, we get into a cycle of stress, we get into a cycle of burnout. And then as people who are interested in growth, in personal and professional growth, we get into a place where we stagnate. And stagnation is shorthand for not growing. That means we're just not growing anymore. It means we're mediocre. It means now we're not giving our best because we don't have our best to give anymore. And I don't want you to be that person who doesn't give their best because they don't have their best anymore. If you're going to make a mistake, if something's going to happen and you're going to have a bad day, you're going to be off, I want that to be the anomaly, but I don't want it to be because you don't have it to give. That's not fair to you, and it's not fair to the calling that exists in your life to be the best version of yourself. So we're going to talk about that today. What we want to talk about is making progress and making momentum, because a lot of people believe, and we've talked about this the last couple of weeks, this has been kind of a progressive conversation, but a lot of people believe that taking on more means progress. So I'm going to take on more. That means I'm doing more. That means I'm making progress. But the opposite is really true more of the time, because real momentum often comes not from taking additional things on, but from knowing when it's time to let go of the things that aren't moving us forward. And remember, I'll remind you of this. I say this all the time, but I'll remind you of this. Maybe this is the first time you're tuning in. I'm not, with all due respect, I love you. I'm not as worried about you just burning out as I am about the fact that there are bigger and better things that you can do. There are bigger and better things that you should do, and there are bigger and better things that you must do. I believe that every single one of us is made for something bigger than we will naturally achieve if we fall into our default state. You are not meant to live in default, and if you're living there because you're too stressed out, because you have too much on your plate, then you are not doing what you need to do. And worst of all, you may be the source of your own problem. I know that because I am always the source of my own worst problem. I'm always my own worst enemy. So let's talk about this today. Let's first talk about why people overcommit. Do you have some concept of this, like why it is that you overcommit to things? What do you think? For me, as I was, doing my shower notes this morning, as I do every Thursday, as I start to come in and really shape up what the topic for Thursdays is going to look like, I came up with what I think are some emotional triggers for overcommitment. And the first of them is one that we talk about all the time. We talk about it constantly on these streams. We talk about it in and out. It is the fear of missing out or being left behind. Because especially as people who are motivated to achieve, as people who are high performers, when an opportunity comes our way, we want to say yes to it. And that's a great reflex. You absolutely should say yes to opportunities that come your way. But you also have to know which opportunities are the right ones to say yes to. But sometimes we get so afraid of missing out or being left behind. And it's like, well, no, but I have to build this relationship. I have to build this relationship. If I'm not in that meeting, then those people won't know me. If I'm not in that place, then I might not get all of the details that I need to build this thing that I'm building. We have a fear of missing out. And that fear is a liar sometimes, as fear often is. Fear is often predicated on lies. It's not predicated on truth. I don't like disappointing people, and B, my jobs trained me to always need to be doing more with less, so I feel like I must always be productive. That's the key right there. I love that you call that out, first of all, because one of the biggest issues that we have with this is we take on other people's concept of what it means to be productive. And if you look around you, I think back to like my sales day back in Best Buy and what people were doing when they were being productive, quote unquote productive. And I'll tell you, a lot of it was activity, but it wasn't forward momentum. And the issue is that a lot of bad workplaces will judge your progress by how much you get done, not by what you get done. And that right there is the key, because it's rarely about volume. It's almost always about quality of the work that you do. That being said, feel that 100%, right? We take that on, we take that into our identity, and we go, okay, well, if I'm not doing all the things, then I am, supply the label for yourself, right? For me, it was lazy. If you're not doing all the things, if you're not busy every hour of every day, you're lazy. Right? Maybe for you, it's not that. Maybe for you, it's irresponsible. Oh, if you're not doing everything for the whole family all the time, then you're irresponsible. Maybe you're not holding up your end as a mother or a father, right? Or maybe as an employee, you're not holding up your end. You're being irresponsible. So we have to examine those labels. We have to examine them in light of what we know is actually creating the valuable work, the work that creates value in our lives. So the fear of missing out, fear of being left behind, I think certainly the way that we are, just like you said, the way that we are being brought up, the way that we are programmed by the world around us, that plays into it. I think our identity attachment is what I was just talking about, right? If I'm not doing all of these things, then who am I? Gosh, this is the empty nester problem, right? Is that it's that mom who's had kids at home for, maybe 30, 40 years, right? They've had the kids at home for all these years, and all of a sudden there are no kids. And they realize that their whole identity was wrapped up in taking care of everyone else around them. And because they never took the time to do the identity work on what was important in their life beyond other people, now they're saying to themselves, well, I did this my whole life. Now it's gone. Who am I? It could be the same, though, for somebody who loses their job. If your identity is wrapped up in your job, oh, I am a fill in the blank. I'm a banker. I'm a teacher, right? And then you lose that job and you come up against the question, who am I? Then maybe your identity is attached to the wrong thing. So I think there's the fear of missing out. I think there's the identity attachment. I think there's the external pressure, which is what we were talking about, right? Part of it's, the way that we are taught what productivity it looks like. But the other part of it is just feeling like we have to say yes, because, come on. Listen, bottom line, I just want to help people out. right? That's a part of my makeup. And you're probably the same. You probably just want to help the people who are around you. So sometimes saying no feels like you're not living up to your own standards, which are around helping people out. That's a valid concern, right? The fourth thing that I think about though is this illusion of control. This idea that somehow we have control of everything that's going on around us. And that if we have our hands on all of the different things that are going on, that we are somehow in control of our lives. When ironically, the exact opposite may be the case. The more things we try and get our hands around, very often, the less in control we are of the whole process of living our lives. So let me tell you a story about this. There's back in 2018, I founded a company called the Phoenix Creative Collective with, I think at the time, 8 friends of mine. So we all got together and we said, we're going to found this company. And it's, long story short, it's a performing arts company. And you can imagine kind of what that looked like, right? 2018, we got the company formed, we got started. 2019, we had our first season and things were really cool and we did a lot of great shows and we were really innovative and a little bit edgy and everybody was loving us and we were selling out shows left and right and we were doing crazy experimental things. And then 2020 hits, right? 2020 hits, flatline. Nobody can do live entertainment anymore. And so as a result, all of those 8 people that I founded the company with, a lot of them found other things that they had to do with their lives. And they went out and found other jobs so that they could, so they could make ends meet. And excuse me. So now we're back to a place where we can do things. But in that process, I also found a different path for myself. It was during that time when I started to form my identity around how I could support other people through coaching and consultation, which is what I do for a living right now. And so now we're back to the place where we can do some theatrical things again. And some of the members really, really want to get back into this. In fact, we've got a show that's going to go on right now under the banner of this company that I'm still a member of. And in the past, I would have been down at that theater right now because that show goes up tonight, I believe, actually, or next week. I don't know. See, I don't even know when the show goes up. That's the first thing. But the show is imminently going up. And in the past, I would have been down there. Even though I'm running my coaching business, running my consulting business, still working for another organization, I am creating content here. I'm doing, I'm literally doing a podcast on my lunch break every Thursday, which is not a great advertisement, I guess, for not being overcommitted. But I'm, every night when I clock out from my regular job, I'm going into my videos and I'm pulling them out and I'm scheduling posts for the next day so that I can get the word out. I wrote a book. I'm trying to get that book edited. I did a 30-month challenge, 30-day challenge last month that I'm now in the process of adapting that into a 30-day transformational journal that you'll be able to pick up really cheap on Amazon very soon. There's a short commercial for that. But normally, in the past, I would have felt like I needed to be down there because I didn't want to let people down because, I was a part of the company. And there was this tension, right? Or there is this tension, right? There's this tension between the past identity of me as a leader in that company and then my present priorities, right? Because when I look at my life right now and I say, what's going to get me to the next place that I need to be? What's going to move me into a world where I'm free to do the things that I was made to do? Those are the things that have to take priority in my life right now. And as a result, I'm not down there. And sometimes do I still feel a little bit bad about it? Yeah, I do. But, I'm lucky the group of people who's doing that, they're my friends. They understand that I can't be everywhere at once. Had to let go of that. And what I really had to deal with was the idea that letting go meant abandoning something. But here's the thing. Letting go, I want to state this very clearly for you because I worry about that last part. I worry that we feel like letting go is abandoning people or abandoning things. But here's how I want you to reframe. It's not about abandoning people, it's about trusting people. I am so guilty of this. I think that I have to be there for stuff. I feel like if I'm not there, then I'm not doing my job. But that's a mask in a lot of cases. That's me lying to myself. It's me deceiving myself and saying, "Oh, you just care so much about these people." But really what it is do you trust them to get it done? Do you have the trust, the honest trust that other people will accomplish what needs to be accomplished? So that's a question I want to leave you with here for a moment is just, do you trust other people to get things done? And if not, is it their fault or is it your fault? Is it their fault because they're untrustworthy? Or is it your fault because either you just don't trust them and you've never tested it, or because you haven't given them enough to allow them to build the skills to do things on their own? It's about trusting others, and it's about choosing what matters most. Over here in chat, the one thing I prioritized when I was in a leadership position was, if I'm a good leader, things should still function if I'm not here. So good. Such a good comment. That is exactly, I literally have that written down in my notes here. And that makes me think about, again, it takes me back to kind of my sales days, a lot of my sales days, some of my banking days as well. But when I was working in larger corporations, and I would see these people who would, other managers, right? Other leaders who would never take a sick day and they wore it as a badge of honor, and who would, they would come to work just sick, just throwing up, just violently ill. They would come to work because they thought that that was the measure of what it meant to be a good leader. But just like you said, if they were really good leaders, then what would happen is they would stay home and they would show back up and things would be fine. And you know what happens? Because I came up against this. I was that leader for a long time. But what happened was one day I came to a point where I had to stay home. And I came back and things were fine. I got so sick one time I could not go into work. And in fact, I went to work and my crew, they sent me home. They said, "Get out of here. You're sick. You cannot be here like this." They sent me home. So I went home, passed out for like 3 days. When I came back, everything was fine. And that was the day when I realized, that was kind of when it turned around for me. And I realized it's not about me. It's not about my presence. It's about the value that I'm providing when I am here and the structures I'm creating that allow people to really have the power to do what they need to do. One of the things, as I was thinking about this, was the difference between extroverts and introverts. And I thought, I'm an extrovert. I'm a natural extrovert. But I think about my wife, for example, who's an introvert. And I thought, well, what does overcommitment look like on the different sides of the personal energy scale? Extroverts, I can tell you from my standpoint, right? Extroverts, we overcommit by saying yes to too many external obligations. We have all of these networking things and social events and leadership roles, and we thrive on connections and we thrive on activity. And so these are the things that we overcommit to, right? And you would look at that and you would go, well, how could an introvert ever be overcommitted? At least as a prejudiced extrovert, that's what I say, right? And so as I was doing some reading and looking into it and really kind of being thoughtful about it, what I realized is that the introvert commits very often through quiet obligation. The introvert is the person who's not necessarily going to be going out to all the mixers and all of the networking events and those things, but they're going to be the ones who are reacting more intensely to the things that they feel like should be in control in their inner sphere, feeling like they have to keep things running behind the scenes, feeling like they have to avoid letting other people down. And I think that's really the reason the introverts overcommit. With extrovert, it's that fear of missing out a lot of times. With introverts, it's the fear of letting down very often. Susan Cain wrote one of the studies that I wrote or that I read, and she wrote a book, in fact, called "Quiet: The Power of Introverts in a World That Can't Stop Talking." And she said that introverts' nervous systems actually react more intensely than extroverts to social situations, and because of that, it doesn't mean that they have less reactions. It means they take on these quiet burdens, these internal burdens. And when an introvert is overrun with responsibility, sometimes we won't even know it. And that's the danger also, right? Because we have a tendency to commit to things that we would normally love, things that we would normally like to do. Most of us aren't committing to things we hate to do. But when those things that we love, they start to feel painful, that's when we have to look at it. I'm going to talk about signs you're taking on too much in a second here. What's this? I'm introverted with an extrovert child, so I overcommit both ways. That's the problem, right? When you're an introvert that is very closely attached to a strong extrovert, then suddenly you're taking on more and more and more and more. And now you're burning the candle literally at both ends. You're burning it on the end of having too much to do, but you're also burning it on the end of having so much social interaction without the ability to recover that there's nothing left, right? And what did I say at the beginning? You can't grow from a place where there's nothing left. We have to determine what our strategies are for dealing with this. So for extroverts, a good strategy is conscious selection, right? That's it for me, is instead of saying yes to everything as it comes along, instead of having yes be my default, I have to ask myself, of all of the commitments that are here, what actually moves me in the direction that is best suited towards my growth? So if 10 people come in and they all want to invite me to things or they all want me to do things, which one of these things is actually going to move me towards growth? So for example, the show that's going on right now, I love doing live theater, guys. Don't get me wrong about that. I came up doing live theater. It is a passion of mine. But, and I would love nothing more than to be involved with that right now. But when I look at that and I look at my growth path, that's not on it right now. So committing to that, not a good idea in this case. And so for extroverts, it's all about that selection. For introverts, it's more about selective withdrawal, I think. It's more about asking, if I step back from this, is it really going to fall apart? Or am I just assuming that it will because I've always been there to shore it up, right? And maybe there's a process of just stepping back from some things, just taking a step back and just seeing what happens, right? Just seeing if maybe you're not as integral to the function of the universe as you think you are. And I don't mean that to diminish you in any way at all. Everybody is vital and important and needed and necessary in all of their ecosystems. But maybe if you're not the one there doing the work every day, maybe it's okay, right? But the only way to know that is sometimes to take a strategic step back and to determine, do I think this will fall apart without me, or will it really fall apart without me, right? So how then the next thing that comes to my mind is how do we realize that we're overcommitted? Because too many times I think we just get stuck in it. We just wake up one day and all of a sudden we've got more to handle than we can handle. But there should be some kind of red flags. There should be some kind of warning flags that go up. And I think there are. So here, let me talk to you about some of the ones that I put down as I was putting my notes together for this today. Here's the first one. If your schedule is packed, but your results are stagnant, you're overcommitted. So if you've got all of the things, all of the good things on the calendar, and you've got, you're doing 100 streams a week. Let's go to those of us who are streamers. You're doing 100 streams a week, and, you've got everything dialed in exactly, and you just don't have any time for anything else, but you're not seeing results. You're not seeing engagement. You're not seeing growth. You're not seeing quality relationships built in the community that you're trying to build. If your schedule is packed, but your results are stagnant, you're overcommitted, right? That's a sign that you've taken on maybe too much. If little things, what would normally be little things, feel overwhelming to you, then you're probably overcommitted. So like for me, it's so dumb. It's literally, and again, please understand, I'm struggling through this with you. I've got strategies, and I'm working on those strategies, but I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you, oh, I'm there, I figured it out. But what I will tell you is, when small things feel overwhelming, then you're probably maxed out. And when little things irritate you so badly that you react violently, and I'm not talking about like throwing a chair, but like, you know what it is. You know where your overreaction line is. When you react to something small as if it was like the worst thing that's ever happened. The other day I was in here and I was trying to get prepared, and I hadn't had time to do all this stuff in the morning that I like to do, and I was trying to get all my stuff together to get out so I could get in the car to go to the meeting that I had to go, so I could go to the other meeting, I could meet with these people. And I went up to, I have a light fixture that's up here that's lighting me from this side right now. And I went up to turn it off, I think, because it was on. I went up to turn it off, and it fell and hit me in the head. And honestly, it was as if somebody had come along and run me over with a car. That was how I reacted to it. I was so mad. I was just incensed that this had happened to me. This great injustice had happened to me. And it wasn't about the light that fell. I mean, it's super lightweight. It's not that the light fell and hit me in the head. It's that I had allowed myself to get into too much. And as a result, I hadn't spent time on the things that center me around the direction that I need to go. And as a result, I had no energy left to deal with the emotions that came up when that one little thing went wrong. So if small things feel overwhelming, or if you're overreacting to one little thing that goes wrong, that's a sign you've taken on too much. If resentment is creeping in, if things that you used to love feel like obligations now, if they feel like, oh man, I can't believe I have to do this thing, but 6 months ago, that thing was great, right? You're probably overextended. You've probably taken on too much. And this is a big one for me too. If you're saying yes out of guilt or fear instead of strategy, and remember, strategy is saying, who am I today? Who do I want to be? And how do I get from here to there? That's strategy. So if saying yes is about, I don't want to let people down, or I'm afraid of what will happen if I don't, if that's the reason you're saying yes and not because it's getting me closer to where I want to be, then it's wrong. Wrong, 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 wrong. And this right here is one of the things I want to let you off the hook if I can. A lot of people get this way around family, right? Have you ever heard the old saying, blood is thicker than water? And a lot of times your family may not understand when they are not your priority. And I'm not talking about like your kids and, your husband, right? But sometimes the family who's around you, they may not understand when you have other priorities. And you'll hear that, blood is thicker than water. You got to stick with family first. And that's going to create some of that guilt. If you're reacting out of that kind of guilt, let me encourage you to seek help with that, to seek help in finding ways to set healthy boundaries. I hate the word. It's very dumb. It's very pop psych. But there's a real thing that is boundaries. And to help people understand, hey, sometimes I'm going to say no, and here is why I'm going to say no, right? Because if you can explain the why and they don't accept your why, then there's nothing else you could do, right? The best that you can do is explain why you do things the way that you do them. If other people will not accept that, unless it's bad, right? If it's bad for you, if your why is something self-destructive, that's one thing. But then you know what? It's not on you, and you can't take it on you. I've been having to set boundaries with my mother. It's been hard, really hard, but I'm setting them slowly. Yeah, this is one of the hard things. I would recommend that you listen to, there's a great podcast, Simon Sinek, who's an amazing author and a great guy. And he has a podcast called A Bit of Optimism. And his interview last week, I cannot remember what her name was, but she talked about what real boundaries look like. Not not just the kind of boundaries that we set internally and we say, okay, well, they're violating my boundary, but nobody really knows what a real boundary is. She speaks to that really, really well. So I'd recommend that anybody who's struggling with that you seek that episode out. It's really, really good. What I want you to do right now is just reflect, whether you're here in chat or whether you are watching this in the replay. Maybe just jot down somewhere on a piece of paper. Dr. Becky Kennedy. Thank you, Patch. I appreciate that. Dr. Becky Kennedy was the name of the individual. And I think she has some very good things to say about boundaries that are not just your therapist or your life coach going, you need to set boundaries with people. And I'm not going to tell you what that is, but you need to have them, right? It's boundaries in the sense of respecting our decisions with the kids, what we do and don't want done with or around them. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. She's got a really good formula for that. I won't go into it here, but it's really good. But what I want you to do is I want you to look at your commitments right now, and I want you to say to yourself, if I could just remove one thing without guilt, what would it be? So if I could take one thing out of all of my commitments and not feel guilty about it, what would it be? And then I want you to ask yourself why you're not excluding that, why you're not already taking it away, right? Because there are two possible answers. The one answer goes back to the guilt. Oh, I could take it away because I wouldn't feel guilty because I'm not letting somebody down. I'm not being there for somebody, blah, 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 blah. The other answer could be because it's not something that actually matters. It's not something that's driving me towards what's important. Now, if that's the answer, if you could say, I could let go of this because it's not something that's driving me forward, then let go of it. Just let it go. Just drop it right now. Do not hold on to the things in your life that are just there by default. Do not live in a mode that says, I'm just doing what I do today because I did it yesterday and the day before, and maybe that's what my mom or my dad taught me, or, all along the way. Don't hold on to things that are not moving you forward just because you feel like you have to. And if you're driven by guilt, start to deal with why you're driven by guilt. Let's talk about some strategies to let go of things. Here are some strategies that I have kind of developed for myself, some things that I'm working through. The first one is to get really clear on your priorities. So what should drive your commission? What should drive your commitments is your commission, your calling, your reason, your purpose, your why, your mission, your goals, your values. That's what should drive your commitments, not guilt, not habit, not external pressure, not peer pressure. None of that stuff should drive your commitments. It should be your mission, your goals, your commission, the thing that you are called to do. That should drive it. So get clear on what that is. And if you're not clear on what that is, then hit me up. I happen to do this for a living. I can help you very quickly figure out what it is that's most important right now. So here's the exercise for that. I want you to write down, you don't have to do it right now. I want you to write down 3 priorities, 3 things that over the course of the next year, there are things that are just going to help you grow. They're going to help you get better. 3 priorities. So for me, for example, I'm working on my health this year, which is fitness. Right? I'm working on my writing this year, which is, specifically around getting my book and some of the other things published, right? And I'm working on growing my coaching skills in business as well. Those are the 3 things, coaching and consulting. Those are the 3 things that are priorities for me right now. So if something comes up, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to review if it's connected to one of those 3 things. And if it's not, I'm going to get rid of it. I'm going to be ruthless this year with eliminating things that aren't growing me in one of those 3 ways. So very, very important. Number 1, get clear on your priorities. Number 2, the what can I do filter. This is what I'm calling what can I do filter. It's the what can only I do filter. So I want you to put this filter on now. Put on these glasses that say in front of you every time you're looking at a task, am I the only person who can do this? Am I the only person who can do this, or am I just the only person who's willing to do it? I have a friend that I work with in one of the organizations that I work with who is this person. And it's like, I have all this work. Well, you have all that work because you're the only person who's willing to do it. Are you the only person who can do it? No. Well, then don't do it all, right? Am I the only person who can do this? Or am I the only person who's willing to do this? And the exercise is write down some tasks that you're currently holding on to. In fact, write down a list of all the stuff that you do. And then go through and ask, what could somebody else do? Who else could take this over? Sometimes it's outsourcing. And I love this concept. I know that, listen, times are tough. I get it economically, but sometimes outsourcing is worth it. Sometimes I think it's Alex Hormozy who talks about he's willing to pay for his time. He's going to pay for his time because time is more valuable to him than the money that it costs to outsource some of the things that he does. So look for the places where you can outsource. And if maybe it takes a little bit of money, invest the money. But maybe it's not even money. Maybe it's just looking at who is around you, who's on your team, and going, hey, maybe this person could take this on, this person could take this on. And in some cases, you may find that people are actually have less to do than they need to do. And this may be a blessing to them. So here's the other thing. You got to trust people. Some people, especially high-performing leaders, will not let go of things because they'll say, oh, he couldn't do that the way that I can do it. She couldn't do that the same way that I could. But my question to them is always, when I'm coaching these leaders, my question is, well, okay, like what percentage could they do it at? Could they do it at 80% of your ability? Then let them do it. If it's 10%, then maybe not. Maybe we train them up. But if somebody can do something at 80% or better of your ability, then get out of it. Let them do it. It's not about walking away without structure. It's about setting people up for success, right? We have this thing about delegation, right? We want to, as leaders, we want to delegate things to people. And too many people think that delegation is abdication. You know what? I'm just going to give this up to you and you go do it, right? But it's not that, right? Delegation is about empowering somebody, actually providing them the empowerment to do things. It's, leaders who abdicate, they don't delegate, they step back, but they really remain, they keep the power, or they step back, but then they're really watching over your shoulder. That's not delegation, that's abdication. Delegation has to say, what's everything you need to accomplish this to the best of your ability? I'm going to make sure you have it, but I'm not going to do it. And when it comes time to check in, I'm going to check in with you, but I'm going to trust you to get this done. So remember the 80% rule. Remember, it's about real delegation and empowerment. And don't just tell people you're going to give them stuff and then not really give it to them. Let's see, what's this? My mother-in-law loves doing laundry. So if I know she's going babysitting, I'll leave the laundry so she can do it. It's a perfect example, right? Like we think to ourselves, who loves doing laundry? Who loves doing paperwork? Who loves doing fill in the blank with whatever it is, right? But there are people who do. I have another friend at one of the organizations I work with. And we were talking about this repetitive process that just needs to get done in a cycle forever and ever and ever. And she's like, oh, I would love doing that. I would love doing it. I would love just maintaining it and keeping it going and getting it moving and just keeping it. And like that, to me, that would be an absolute death. That would be the death of my whole spirit and soul if I had to do something that was repetitive over and over and over again like that. But to her, that's a gift. It's actually something she loves. So understand, don't stop. We got to stop judging other people by our own standards. And I mean that on every single level. On the one hand, we just got to stop being judgmental. We've got to stop canceling people for everything, right? Listen, there are times when people need to be called to accountability. I'm not saying that, but we've got to stop going through everything with a fine brush and a highlighter and looking for reasons to cancel people, right? That's the first thing. But on the other hand, we also have got to stop guessing what other people won't like for them. That's the dumbest thing. And we do it so much. We got to stop doing that. We got to let people let us know what they love. Yeah, and we got to let them do it when it's something that's that's on top of us. I was reading a quote by it's Eckhart Tolle is the name, and the quote is, "Sometimes letting things go is an act of far greater power than hanging on." So if you're a leader or just a leader in the family, or if you're hanging on to stuff because you feel like it's a loss of power, loss of control, then what I want you to consider is the fact that letting go is sometimes the most powerful thing you could possibly do. We were in this Bible study that I was talking about last night, and there's kind of this I guess icebreaker kind of question in the curriculum that they were using, and it was talking about sleep and how your sleep is, and there's a place in Psalm 127 where it talks about the fact that God gives sleep to those who He loves, and this question was, what does it mean that we think about sleep as a gift from God? And as I was reflecting on that, what I thought was, it's a gift because it requires us to surrender, right? Sleep is a gift because it's good for us, but it requires us to surrender control. Because as much as you are in control of your destiny, as much as I believe that you are in control of your own success, your own future, your own destination, all of those things, there comes a time when we must understand that while we are in control, we cannot do it alone. And if you're trying to do it alone, your life's going to be terrible. And not only is your life going to be terrible, but you're going to fail. And not just fail and learn, but you're going to fail and fail and fail until you realize that sometimes what's required for great power and great progress and great ability is exactly that. Just surrender. So the question is, when you're giving something away, before you step back, ask, does this person have the authority, the resources, and the clarity that they need to succeed? Have I given them the power? Have I given them all of the resources that they need? And have I given them the clarity to succeed? Clarity is very important there. If you're going to hand something off, it's really important that you let them know, understand what your expectation is with regards to the outcome. And it's really important that you make them understand what it is they're actually doing. I always talk about the fact that employee engagement is actually about four things. It's about whether people understand what it is they're supposed to do, how it matters, right? Just beyond the fact that it's getting done, how they can be successful at it, what success looks like, and whether they're successful at it. Those four things. If you can tell anybody those four things when you're handing it off to them, that will create clarity for them. So practice that, work on that. So that's kind of the framework in general that I put together in my head this morning as I was thinking about how we're overcommitted and how we can stop being overcommitted. So I'm going to go over the 3 steps again. Get clear on your priorities, right? Know what's important, what's not important, and align your activity with your priorities. 2, can only I do this? Is this something only I can do? Or can somebody else do it at least 80%, right? And 3, take the courageous step to empower those around you to do things, to step up and do things. Because if you don't, you're not only doing yourself a disservice because you're going to run yourself into the ground, but you're also doing a disservice to those people because they're not going to learn the importance of stepping up into their moment, right? So here's what I want you to do. Here's your call to action for the week. Here's your thing for the week. Your assignment for the week is this. I want you. What's up, Turtle? How's it going? It's good to see you, my friend. Here's what I want you to do for this week as we begin to wind down. The first thing I want you to do is I want you to identify one commitment that is draining you more than it's helping you. Figure out one thing, just one thing. We're not going to go after everything at once. That's how we fail. Figure out one thing that is draining you more than it's helping you, more than it's moving you. And I want you to ask yourself, what would happen if I let it go? What would happen if I let it go, and who could step up in my place? Right? Ask yourself those questions. That's the first challenge. And then the second thing is this. I want you really to think about what you're afraid of. What is it that you're afraid of that's keeping you holding so tightly to things? Is it the fear that everything will fall apart without you? Is it the fear that you're going to miss out on something that you'll never be able to capture again? What is it that you're afraid of that's holding you back? Because real leadership and real growth, it's not about holding on, but it's about building something that's strong enough that you don't have to. Take the sick day. Take the vacation. Make sure your people know what's expected of them and hold them to that expectation when you come back. Things will probably be fine. Do not be pessimistic going into this. Do not go into it with the attitude that, oh, things might be terrible. But go into it with the attitude that things might be great. And I might get to take a vacation every year going forward. So that's what I've got for you today. Hopefully some of that is helpful, a little bit of that framework. As always, if you want the guide, the episode guide, that will be listed in my newsletter, which, by the way, you can find over here. It's andrewburkham.com, .substack.com. That's where my free newsletter is. There is a paid version of that too, where you can get additional content. It's pretty cheap. I think it's the cheapest they would let me make it is $5 a month. So for $5 a month, you get a little bit extra, a little bit of one-on-one time as well with me, if that's something that you want. But the main newsletter is free, and it contains all of the episode guides, access to all the episode guides from all of these episodes. So you can go back and you can see all of the stuff that we just talked about in outline form, and that may help you. I also have the One Change Challenge that's on my website. This is a completely passive thing. What you do is you go to the website, you sign up for the One Change Challenge. There's a little box. All you got to do is put your email address in there, and you click through to the site. You're going to get an email prompt every single day for 30 days. And if you follow those prompts, I promise you, if you follow them every day, and I know there's going to be slips, there's going to be slides, there's going to be all kinds of things that happen. But if you follow those prompts every day, at the end of the month, you will have changed something in your life. You will have created a habit that will last. You will have created transformation. And as a special gift, once you have finished that, once you receive that last email, that's also going to have a link to something that I call the Transformation Toolkit. And the Transformation Toolkit is it's a 60-page toolkit. Exactly. It's got different prompts, there's 30 full journaling prompts that are in there. There are trackers for your habits, for your reflections, for all of those things. And it's a really nice little kit of stuff. I'm really proud of it. Actually, I worked really hard on it. And it's totally free, not asking for any money for that. But you get it just for signing up for the challenge, for getting those 30 emails from me. But all of that can be found at my website, ideatrainingacademy.com. Of course, please sign up for the newsletter at andrewburkham.substack.com. You can find me on Instagram. You can find me on YouTube, of course. If you're not already there, you can find me on TikTok as well, Mindset Mentor, or at Andrew Burkham on TikTok. You will find me as well there. But that is what I have. And of course, guys, I always like to connect with you and interact with you. So by all means, please check in with me. Let me know how you're doing. If you're in the Discord, hit me up there. Let me know how things are going. If there are topics you want to talk about on the show, please do that. If you wouldn't mind, if you're on Twitch, it's always great if you follow. I think most of you are. But if you get over to YouTube, if you could drop a sub, doesn't cost anything. Drop a sub. You can always you can always share the video. Help the message get out, guys, because I do this because I know that there are a lot of people who are in the same space that I have been in, where they wanted to do better things, they wanted to do bigger things, They wanted to do greater things, but they didn't know how to get there. They got stuck. And what I want to do is I want to get people unstuck, because I believe that everyone has a moment of greatness that's waiting for them, but it's not coming for them. It's up to you to pursue your moment. So I want you to get out there. I want you to stop being overcommitted. I want you to step out of the fear, and I want you to be great. I'll see you next week. Thanks so much.